morning, everyone, and Merry Christmas. I really hope that this is one of the best days of your year and that you are enjoying it with your friends and family. And I know it's not the most important part of Christmas, but if you're a collector like me, or even just someone that has a bunch of kids or are a kid and happen to be watching my channel, I hope you got what you wanted, and I hope that if you're a parent that got kids gifts, that they enjoyed it, and I just hope that anyway, I'm a little bit of a rambling, but I hope all of you are having a good Christmas, and that's pretty much the whole point of what I'm trying to say. And I hope, Gustavo, that you are having a wonderful Christmas, or about as good as a Christmas as you can have while I'm away. And I really hope that Santiago is enjoying his giant dinosaur plushie and whatever else we decide to get him. Anyway, today I'm not really going to be reviewing any figures specifically. If you can see behind me, back here, I have most of the stuff that I got while at Fan Expo. It's pretty much just going to be going over Fan Expo because honestly, even though it was back in June this year, it really felt like Christmas to me. And considering the Navy and all that, and not being able to be home for the holidays most of the time, you take what you can when you can get it, and it was honestly like Christmas for me. So I really want to go over my experiences and how awesome that was. And again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Okay, so Fan Expo was one of those things that it was just kind of serendipitous. It was something that I had kind of planned out, but it was a spurt of the moment sort of thing. It was still a few months out. I just happened to see a post on Facebook talking about, hey, there's I just happened to meet Peter Cole and Frank Welker at this one convention, and I saw that, hey, they're going to be at Dallas Fan Expo 2024. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Dallas Fan Expo? I might be able to take leave and be able to go there and meet them. So I did some research, got information whenever they put it out, and through a series of events of getting leave approved, there was a chance that it wasn't going to get approved. Fear of whether or not I would actually be able to go, because it reached a point where I had to kind of buy tickets, buy everything before I even had the final go ahead to do this thing. So I was a bundle of nerves leading up to it, but then I finally got the final approval, and then that was that, and I went, and oh boy, it was one of the best weekends of my life. I went on 2 separate days, the 8th and the 9th, I do believe. That was June, and I flew back the afternoon or evening. So I flew in on, I do believe, the 6th or 7th, and I spent like a day and a half with my family, just catching up like I normally would. Even though they weren't the main reason why I came back to visit, I was like, well, that's my family, may as well go say hi while I'm in the area. So did that, crashed on their air mattress for a couple of nights while I was there. And I went to the convention. I used Lyft. I just, used rideshare. It costs a pretty penny, but since I was only there for 2 days, and the convention center is so close to the airport, the last rideshare ride wasn't that expensive. Anyway, enough about the boring logistics of the convention and all that. Day one, I had planned, I went to a couple of panels, I think, or at least one. I did go to a panel with Jonathan Frakes. If you don't know who that is the actor most known for his role as Will Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation. And I guess to segue, show this off. So if you look close, there's me, maybe looking a little too excited, potentially, maybe a little manic, whatever, but I do look a little almost a little crazy in that. But there I am with my pass, holding my dad's Enterprise E that I got autographed, and if you look closely, it says, "To Skippy." Jonathan Frakes. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it was kind of a surprise for my dad. It wasn't a surprise that I was going to try to get it signed, but I wasn't sure if I would get the opportunity to. But I was going to try to do so if the opportunity arose. While I was there, I also decided, you know what? William Shatner is very old. He is probably not going to be going to conventions for very much longer because, I mean, he is in his 90s. So I decided to get a photo taken with him and got him to autograph it. I will say that he was very brief, extremely brief, which is understandable. He didn't come off as rude. It was just more of like, you know, just, I guess, doing this for many, many years and just not having as much of a positive outlook as some. I know there are some actors, everyone's different, but there are some that are like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And they're just like reserved and they really just don't want to be there. So, I mean, I suppose that's somewhat understandable, but there's others that absolutely love the fans, love interacting with them, and I did have a few experiences like that while I was there. I also got in line because I just happened to see it. I knew a lot of the characters she'd voiced, like from my childhood. I just didn't realize it was her, but Grey DeLisle, she has done so many characters. It's amazing. I mean, maybe not necessarily to the same extent of number of like Mel Blanc or Frank Welker, but I mean, it's probably pretty close. Like, I honestly don't, but she's done so many and she's so good at it. But I met her. Turns out she actually did the voice of RC in the Transformers live action movies, including the Bumblebee movie and the Michael Bay live action movie. So that is pretty cool. I didn't get a print of her to sign for that because it's like, well, I didn't even know she did the voice of RC until that moment. So I picked a character that she had done more recently that I really, really liked. But I did talk to her. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that you did Transformers at all. And she's like, oh, yeah. And she's also, as you might well know, the voice actress of Azula. But I said, like, and I didn't even know that you did, like, the voice of Emily from Clifford the Big Red Dog. And then she did a little quote, like, Clifford, where are you? And then she did a few quotes like for me, like she was just like of the character, a couple characters as I brought them up. That was so awesome. And then the most recent one that I've seen of her that I really, really liked was Miss Chalice from the Cuphead show. And I like how she wrote, Silas, turn on the charm. And she even did it in her Miss Chalice voice. And she wrote her signature and then wrote Miss Chalice. So I thought that was really cool. I had a little bit of an oversight when setting up this little display. I forgot one very important character, Soundwave, because this is where I am going next in this story. Okay, so I had purchased the Ultimate Experience, which included a free autograph, not free because you're paying for it, but included an autograph from Peter Cullen and Frank Welker each. And I was like, well, I want to get more things autographed. So I decided that I would purchase additional autographs. So I purchased 2 additional autographs for Frank Welker and 1 additional autograph for Peter Cullen. And if you've seen my review of Soundwave earlier this month, you will have noticed that he was not satisfied with that autograph. So he decided to autograph him on the bottom. You might be able to just barely see it in the box, but he did write his name on the back of his legs in tape deck mode. And I thought that was so cool. I was like, sure. Like, I mean, that's no skin off my nose. I mean, because otherwise I'd have to pay for like another autograph. So, I mean, I was absolutely thrilled. And more about before I went to get that autographed, while I was in line, this is like maybe a few hours after I had went through the line with Miss DeLisle. When I saw her again, I was in line. I was just handed my token, my pass essentially, for getting one autograph from Frank Welker. And I just happened to see her going to her table, which is like right next to theirs. And I said, "Why hello there," or "Why hello again," or something along those lines. And she was like, "Oh, hi Silas, nice to see you again." Like, she hesitated a moment before saying my name. But the thing is, though, it's like I didn't have a pin or anything with my name on it. It was that she had remembered my name. I know that it probably doesn't seem like much, but I'm sure a lot of these actors and people, they do their best to remember names and stuff like that. And besides, they memorize scripts for a living. So, I mean, it makes sense that they would remember things. But I was like shocked that she remembered my name, and it was a few hours beforehand. And then I asked, I was like, how did you remember my name? I don't remember if that's exactly how I asked it or worded it, but she was like, well, it's a very nice name, or something along those lines. And it just had me tickled pink and all that. It gave me warm fuzzies inside. And then I continued on my way to Mr. Welker's table, and he was just finishing up with another group, and I happened to be right next to him, so he was shaking everyone's hand in that little group, and they shook my hand, and then they moved everything on. Everything just moves so quickly when you're at these tables, that it's just it sometimes it can leave your head spinning just a little bit. And obviously they have to move quickly, because especially with like Mr. Welker and Mr. Cullen, because there are so many fans that want to go meet their they're just huge figures from so many childhoods. I mean, it's mind-blowing to a degree. Anyway, back to the story, and I did miss a part with Miss Delisle, and that was she was giving pretty much everyone a hug when she finished up with them, and I got a hug with her, and that was, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, to think that so many there are so many actors that are not willing to do that. Most of the ones I interacted with was like, all right, no touching, nothing like no hand. Like, obviously you can ask if like, hey, is it okay if I shake your hand? Obviously you don't want to, touch them without permission. Well, I can understand most stars are not okay or aren't willing to, if that makes any sense, because it's understandable. Because I mean, if you're meeting hundreds or thousands of people in such a short time, the chances of getting sick are pretty high, even if you are a healthy individual. So that makes perfect sense, especially for William Shatner, Mr. Shatner. Where was I? Oh yes, getting Soundwave autograph. So I handed him my paint pen. He signed it with the yellow, was not satisfied with it. I still think it looks pretty cool on the front, even though it does look a little thin in a couple of places. But he was like, I'm not satisfied with it. Where else can I sign? I'm like, well, wherever you want. And I think he used one of his black Sharpies, and he just, like I said, wrote Frank Welker on the back of his legs. And then, I think I said, like, gush like any fan would, and just was like saying all, like, I can't remember. It's one of those things where it's like you say these things in the moment and you just can't remember because you are just so starstruck. Like, I mean, it is called Starstruck for a reason. One last photo that I got taken that I had ordered. Also, I ended up getting Grand Max, I do believe, on the 8th, and that was the only day I went through the floor for the stuff, like pretty much for the things that were on sale, because man, oh man, there were so many things I saw that I would have loved to have gotten. But on the second day, I was like, I've already spent so much money for like autographs and things like that. I am just going to stick to the autograph floor. And besides, I was saying, like, I cannot bring much stuff with me. Like, all I had was a carry-on small personal item when I flew back. Okay, so last thing I did, or one of the last things I did, was getting a photo with Frank Welker and Peter Cullen. And the autographs, those were done the next day. And that was the reason why I bought an additional autograph for Mr. Cullen, was to get this autographed, as well as Optimus Prime's trailer back there. This, like I said, this is autographed the second day. ended up on the first day, total shook Mr. Welker's hand 3 times as when the other group was leaving before me, and then after I had my time with him, and then for the photo op, and I thought it was so cool. Like, I didn't think that they were going to put their hands on my shoulder or anything like that, and I was just so happy, so excited, and that was just so awesome. Like, to have 2 of my favorite voice actors of all time just having their hands on my shoulders like that, and they look genuinely happy in that picture just to be with their fans. So I went home, pretty much gushed to my dad, surprised him with the Enterprise. I did my best. I seriously did my best to try to keep a straight face, try to look kind of forlorn and a little sad. Like, yeah, Dad, I wasn't able to get him to autograph your Enterprise. I'm sorry. And then I ended up just being and then I ended up handing it to him, and he was so happy about that. Anyway, so slept, went back, got another lift to the convention center, got in, and did a little bit of exploring, and I went to get in line. I got in line for the Ultimate Experience when that time came out, because that was before the panel to meet with Mr. Colon and Mr. Welker. And one little thing that I thought was kind of funny was when I went to go use the restroom, it was like maybe half an hour to an hour before the Ultimate Experience, and I just walked into the restroom, walking in. Mr. Welker was just walking out. He had just washed his hands. He was shaking his hands out, and he was just laughing and I think talking with the security escort that he had. So I was in line. I realized that because that's what it was. I was in line earlier in the day to try to use my other vouchers, essentially, to get the other autographs, to get pretty much Optimus Prime's trailer autographed, and to get either Scooter or Megatron autographed by Mr. Welker. So that was I was in line for, but they just weren't there because they were doing the Ultimate Experience or the Optimus Experience or Megatron Experience, like, because they did have whereas if you just only really cared about meeting one of them, you could do just a one-off with just one of them, or you could do one with both. So they were just in and out all the whole day, whole morning, I guess. So I wasn't able to get the autographs taken. And what I was getting concerned about is I talked to, I think, someone at the table, or I think the person at the table wasn't sure, but when I was talking to the person at the door for the Ultimate Experience, they're like, yeah, those can only be redeemed at the table. They can't be redeemed at any other experience or event. And the reason why I started to freak out a little bit internally was that my flight is pretty soon after the end of the panel. So it's like, as soon as the panel, and even if the panel was running late, I would have had to leave early so that I can make sure that I'd make my flight. Even then, I think I broke the cardinal rule of being there 2 hours early for your flight. I think I was there like an hour and a half early, not 2 hours, because I wanted to make sure that I got to go sit through the whole panel. But if it started to run late or longer, I would have had to leave. Anyway, enough about that. I was so concerned. I had my stuff. I was talking to the people in line with me. Like, I was a little, just pretty much, airing my concerns. Like, don't worry about it too much. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then when I got up there, I was so nervous because there's security guys there, because they're like in black suits, and I was just really nervous. And I had also written a couple of letters to them on the back of printed photos of my YouTube channel logo, because I knew going into it that I was going to just be so starstruck and just so I'd be lost for words, essentially. Like, I'd be able to say some things, but I knew that it would be better if I could just, in addition to that, have my words that I really wanted to get out written down so that they could read them on their own time. And I did ask if they accepted gifts, and they said yes, that they will accept gifts. And I gave them to them, and initially they thought I was wanting them to sign. I was like, no, those are for you guys. Those are for you. They're gifts. And okay. And then they got set aside. Oh man, it was so awesome. I mean, like I said, I had already met them the previous day, but man, it was still so overwhelming. It was, even now talking about it, it's like I'm a little bit lost for words. So part of the Ultimate experience is that you got to get a voicemail recording, pictures with them, and an autograph from them. And of course, some one-on-one time, because it was like you'd have your party, like the people in your group, they would go all in together and they'd be in this room. It was pretty quiet, so there'd be no disruptions from like the main floor. And it's no wonder that it was so expensive for that, because it is just, very, I guess, VIP type of deal. So I go up there. I do believe it's a kind of like, I felt like I had to multitask a little bit, because there's both of them, because they're doing the autographs kind of at the same time. And I was just so nervous that, and it turned out, the lady that was there said, no, you can only redeem these at the table. She's like kind of reluctant. It's like, okay, fine, give me those. And then, cause I was starting to talk to them, like, I know that I'm not supposed to do this, but I mean, I think I gave a brief overview of like why I was making the request, because it's like, I know I'm not going to be able to wait after the panel to try to get autographs. And they were very nice. They were very nice, and they said to make sure you have everything out ready to sign. So I had the trailer out, had Megatron out, and then I also had Scooter out. So I asked Mr. Welker, I was like, would you rather sign a GoBot or a Megatron? And he's like, well, it's up to you. It's essentially your autograph. So I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. Because I know he signs tons of Megatrons. I was like, has he ever signed a GoBot before? So anyway, he's like, well, I don't think I can sign it, because he's like so small. Because I mean, look how small he is. He's tiny. Megatron's chest is bigger than most of Scooter. But so I was like, okay. It's like, yeah, I understand. And then I had him sign Megatron. And then he's like, you know what? Do you have any idea of where you'd want signed on the GoBot? Essentially, I was like, you already autographed Megatron. I was like, and then he grabbed Scooter without even saying another word. He just grabs him, and then he put Frank. I mean, I already showed this off in the review of Scooter, but he wrote Frank Welker. Oh, come on, focus, camera, focus. Anyway, but he wrote Frank Welker on it, one on each leg, and I thought that was so cool. It was kind of half-hearted protest, like, oh, like, I didn't pay for that autograph, like, you shouldn't really be doing. And he just did a, like, don't worry about it gesture. It's like, don't worry about it kind of thing. And then Mr. Cullen, and then, like I said, this was kind of like happening at the same time. So it was like, I wanted to make sure that I got the correct color oil pen I wanted him to use for the trailer, which is the bright red of Peter Cullen. And man, it was so awesome. I feel like in some ways, I guess based on my interactions, that Mr. Welker is probably my favorite out of the two. But I mean, as far as like, I mean, I guess it's because he's done a lot more voices, but I have the utmost respect for both of them. It's just, I ended up just interacting more with Mr. Welker as, I guess, in the whole thing. The photo thing, it was very similar to the day before, hands on the shoulders, but I think they did a little bit more than what they did in that. I like those pictures more than the one I got from the team up photo op. When I did that, like, I like those photos more, even though that one is autographed. But oh man, it was so awesome, and they took quite a bit of photos. Like, honestly, I was probably only in there for like maybe 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, and it was just me in there. And so I was the second to last group, so this ties in a little bit more of the story. And we were starting to run low on time. I was like, is there gonna be time for all of us to get through? Because I know they have to go to the panel, and they probably can't really push that back. The panel's right after the Ultimate experience. And I was like, like I said, I got in there, and then the last thing I think it was the Ultimate Experience, and they asked if you want to change the name so you can make any changes. It was, I was like, just do Silas. It was like, Silas Sheik just seemed a little, I could have just done Sheik, but it's just Silas seems a little more personal, even though my channel is Sheik's TF Reviews. So, I mean, I haven't even set either of these as my voicemail, because I'm not exactly sure how to do that, because usually when you do voicemail, it's you get the recording, you record it as it's doing, and then I have to play the recording from another device while it's I don't know, it'd just be very but oh man, I love listening to them from time to time. But it's like, hi, you've reached a voicemail of Silas, Decepticons attack. That's what he was supposed to do. And then they autograph these too, so I mean, I have even more autographs. And it was, now Mr. Colin did his first, so this is also what he was supposed to say. You've reached a voicemail of Silas, transform and roll out. But they did go off script, which I thought was so cool. Like, I will say, Frank Welker, he did not even say Decepticons attack at all. Like, it was supposed to be very brief voice message type thing, not what they ended up doing. Honestly, I think Mr. Welker's might have been slightly longer than the maximum time for a voicemail reading. I honestly don't know, but oh man, it was so awesome. So I guess I'll go ahead and play those for you guys.
This is Optimus Prime. You have reached the voicemail of Silas. At the tone, please leave a message. That's the tone, but wait. Before then, transform and roll it out. Roll it.
I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. You have reached the voicemail of Silas. Decepticons are everywhere, so I suggest you leave your information quickly, or I'll have one of them follow you home. Right, Silas?
Yes, Megatron. Mighty Megatron.
There you have it. Leave your message now.
I was so giddy. Like, giddy is a schoolboy, schoolgirl, whatever you want to say, whatever term description you want to use, just a fanboy going nuts. Like, it took so much control of myself to keep quiet and hold the phone steady as they were doing their voicemail things. And that, oh man, it was so awesome. And then Mr. Welker's, like, it felt like an eternity when he's like, right, Silas? And then I was like, look, because he was looked up at me as like, right, Silas? And I was like looking at him, and it's like, it felt like an eternity between him saying that and me saying, yes, Megatron, mighty Megatron. Like, it felt like an eternity, but it turns out when I played it back, it was almost instantaneous. Like, that's what I did. It's like I was put on the spot, and I guess did okay. Like, I mean, as far as improvised spurt of the moment things go, I think that was actually pretty good. And then that's pretty much it for the actual thing, because then I was like, all right, had to kind of move out. I grabbed all my stuff, moved out, and started packing everything up. And I saw a few minutes later, because it was taking me a little bit to get everything situated, and I wasn't in a super big hurry because it still was a decent amount of time before the panel. And I went, because this was around lunchtime, so that's how I knew like they weren't going to have they weren't going to be at their tables before the panel. But I was getting everything packed up, and Mr. Welker had already left, and he was talking, I think, with the person he was with, so he didn't really pay attention to me kind of just sitting there outside by the door getting my stuff packed up, because I looked up as he walked past. And then Mr. Colin, I think he came out like maybe another minute and a half, maybe a couple minutes later, because they had just finished up the last Ultimate Experience. I honestly don't know if they went off script for everyone, if that was kind of a fluke because I gave him a gift. I honestly have no idea. Maybe they did that for everyone. I honestly hope they did, because with how expensive it was just to get such a very basic voicemail. I mean, it's still cool. Don't get me wrong. It's still been so cool. But to get something basic like that, I hope everyone got something as awesome as I did. But when Mr. Cullen came out, he looked down at me. I have no idea if he read my letter. He might have actually had the chance to sit down, read my letter before leaving. But he said to me, "Thank you." Like, he looked at me and said, "Thank you." And I was like caught off guard by that. But I smiled. I was looking up at him, smiled, and nodded my head. And he walked on out to, I guess, probably take a bit of a break before heading to the panel. Okay, so at this point, I've done the Ultimate Experience. I've pretty much done everything I wanted to do while on this excursion to the Fan Expo. I met pretty much everyone that I really wanted to meet, but I was like, you know what? There's a couple of people that if they are on the floor and there aren't super long lines, I'm going to go ahead and maybe see if I can meet them. So I was walking around. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get in line for Patrick Warburton because he's pretty cool. It was like the biggest thing that I think I really know him for and really loved him for is Kronk in the Emperor's New Groove and Kronk's New Groove. So I mean, and as well as other things. But when I got up there, most of the autograph cards were gone, so it was pretty sparse as far as like the Kronk things. Like, all the ones for Kronk were gone. There were some for the Emperor's New Groove where it has like all the characters with Kronk on it as well. But I was like, I don't want that. So I found something else. I was like, oh yeah, he was the host or the narrator for the series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, and I decided to pick that one. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to splurge a little bit on most of these other ones. I didn't pay for a selfie with them as well. But I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and pay for a selfie because that's really cool. So I paid for an autograph and a selfie with him. It turns out like I was one of the last people to go with him before he was leaving for lunch or something. Which, honestly, if he had done that before because I was waiting in line. And at this point, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to really meet anyone else if I wanted to be on time for the panel. So I went through his line and I managed to get up there and I met him. He had a huge mustache and I said something along the lines of, "You kind of look like a Navy chief with that mustache." And it wasn't meant as an insult or anything like that. But I just thought that's the thing that came to mind because he's a little bit older. He has a little bit of salt and pepper in his mustache and he does look a little older. So I was like, he kind of looks like a Navy chief. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then he signed this and he wrote, "Silas, please watch something more pleasant." And then he put lemony. And that was so cool. I thought that was really awesome. And that was the last autograph that I got while at the expo. So went to the line for the panel. It turns out even with getting there early, there's still so many people in line. It was a long line. And then I was like, turned out there was a separate line for the Ultimate Experience. And I was like, that's so awesome. It's like being an ultra VIP. So I got in that line. It wasn't terribly long. And I was talking with the people next to me and I was like, oh, I have this one question I really want to ask. And he's like, oh, well, what is it? I was like, I don't want to tell you. I really don't, because if I get to ask, it's just going to ruin it for you. Like if I talk about it before I get to ask it. He's like, I was like, but there is a chance I won't get to ask it. So if I don't, then you won't know what I was going to ask. But then at that point, if they didn't get the answer, well, then it really doesn't matter. But I was so eager to get in there because I was like, I have to sit as close to the microphone as possible. So I picked my seat strategically because I had seen what had happened with the panel the previous day for Jonathan Frakes, and the line for him's like instantaneously. And I did eventually get in line near the end, later on in the panel. I was like, you know what, maybe I'll, like, if I don't get to ask a question, I don't really care that much. It'd be cool if I get to ask him a question, but there's so many people still waiting in line when they have to cut it off. So I didn't get to ask a question, but I was like, I am not going to miss this opportunity. So there was a few close calls when it came to the jumping up to get in line to ask questions. This is because I'm sure people could hypothetically get in line, but I don't think that the people hosting it would have approved of people getting in line like instantly. So they tell you when you can get up and get in line. And it is one of those things where I was like there was a couple of like jumpy, like everyone was so jumpy that wanted to ask a question. Like as soon as they even hinted that they might be like, okay, line up, everyone started to move a little bit. And then when they finally said, yeah, okay, now you can get in line, it's like, boom, I was out of my seat, ready to get in front of the microphone because I was right next to it. So I was going to be first in line, but I feel so bad about it, but I nearly bowled into this little kid, not tiny kid, but this younger kid. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't see you there, but it's like, but it is that, cause like, as soon as I looked back, like there was a long line already formed. It's like snap of your fingers, the line was there. And if you didn't jump up like that, you were probably not going to ask a question. And unfortunately, most of the people in that line did not get to ask a question, mainly because they did cut the panel a bit short. And I think the reason why they did that, and they even explained, if I remember right, it was because they care so much about the fans. They wanted to maximize the time at the tables. He's like, because you've seen the lines, we've all seen the lines, how long it is, and so many people that want to have a chance to meet us, and we want to give them a chance. And I honestly respect that because they genuinely care about their fans, which I love. And with Mr. Welker and Mr. Cullen, it was just like a comedy show almost. And I will admit, the quality of the recording I did isn't the greatest because of all my laughing, but you can pick out most of it. Now, like I said, I nearly bowled into this kid, and I was like, as an apology kind of thing, I was like, oh, like you can go first. Like I nearly ran you over. Like you can go first. And the microphone, because he was pretty short, because like I said, he's a kid, it was too high, and I was like, wasn't sure exactly how to lower it because I fiddled around with it. I was like, you know what? So I wiggled the microphone out for him and handed it to him, and then he bless his heart, like he was so nervous. I was really nervous, especially with the question I had in mind. Anyway, he asked this question. I can't remember exactly what it was. I could play it, but like due to the fear of copyright type stuff or whatever they might try to hit my video with, I'm only going to play my audio and of my question, and so that I reduce the chances of getting in trouble with the powers that be. Okay, so as we all know, Transformers is an ultimate phenomenon that all of us here today, but this is more directed to Mr. Welker, but what do you think it would be like if Transformers never took off and instead it was GoBots, and instead of Megatron, you were doing Scooter, a character more like Bumblebee?
Boy, you're taking a big risk. Did you hear the I can't even imagine it. That is very funny. You know, GoBots was fun, but you can't. I mean, Megatron and Optimus Prime, and I can't really even imagine that. But it is funny. It is very funny.
Another universe.
Another universe, another time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good question.
So you can definitely tell that the absolute reason why they got the reaction it did, but I don't think it was necessarily the best question and the best answer, because I do believe, because someone did do an impression later on, and it was of Soundwave. I think they were trying to do without the vocoder. I like I said, I would love to play the whole thing. It was like 20 something minutes long, so I mean that would make my video so much longer. And also, like I said, I don't want to get taken down because they don't like what's in there. They wrapped up the Q&A a bit early, also because some of the questions were, I will say, a little longer than they probably should have been, but it was still quite fun to watch and be there for, which is why, like I said, I'm so glad that I sat right next to the microphone and jumped up as soon as I could. Anyway, on the way out, I was kind of in a bit of a hurry because, you know, I had a flight to catch, but since it ran a little shorter than I was expecting, I actually had a little bit more time to work with. I ended up seeing the guy that I was in line with, and I was like, oh yeah, so what'd you think of my question? He's like, that was awesome. Like, that was such a good question. Like, yeah, it was definitely worth waiting for. So that was pretty cool. Oh, and another thing, I know that you guys probably don't really, I mean, more recently, my most recent tattoo, I'm sure you guys have seen, which I did not have back then, of the dragon that's on my forearm, but enough about that. One of my tattoos that was visible, because I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and I had taken off my trench coat for the second day. I didn't have it with me that day. My Hula Girl tattoo of Shockwave was visible. So I had a few people like asking about it and thought it was hilarious. And then they didn't even notice the coconut bra. And after that, they thought it was even more hilarious. And then even a couple of people ended up taking pictures of it because they thought it was so cool. So that was pretty cool. Like, I was just sitting there minding my own business, and then people were like, "Hey, nice tattoo." So that was pretty fun. Like, and for those of you that aren't aware, pretty much every tattoo I have is Transformers related in some way. Anyway, enough about that. So, like I said, that's honestly pretty much wraps up my my experience at Fan Expo. So I guess I'll reiterate it again like I did at the beginning, but Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful day, and many more to come. And until next time, have a good one, everyone.